Going to look at a used dirt bike can be really fun, but it can also be intimidating if you don't know what to look for and you don't want to end up with a pile of junk that needs a $2,000 rebuild. Now, I've bought a lot of used dirt bikes over the years, and I've probably looked at well over 100, so I kind of have a good idea of, well, what are the first and most important things to look for to know if it's going to be a good deal, a reliable bike, or if I need to lowball them because it's going to need a lot of work, or just to walk away. So for example, some of the first things I look for are just like the overall look of the bike. Did they take the time to clean up the bike? Does everything look straight? Even though the appearance does not tell you what the actual condition of the bike is, it can give you an idea of how the owner maintained it. So for example, if there's new plastics on it, it might just mean that they wrecked the bike and they put new plastics on it to make it all shiny. But if you take a closer look at the bike, like this one, the exhaust, you can see, is bent inward. And when I bought this bike actually several years ago, this I believe was missing, this was cracked, I saw this was bent, the bars were bent, so I knew going in that this bike was not well maintained and it was wrecked, but I got a good enough deal where I thought I could at least break even, and it was a good trainer bike. Next, I like to check the oil. So most dirt bikes have an oil dipstick, so you just pull it out and you wipe it off. So you stand the bike upright, you hold it upright, and then you put the dipstick back in. You just set it in, you don't thread it in, and then you pull it back out and you check the oil level. See those X's on there. If the oil is all the way to the top or in the middle, then we're good. But if it's at the bottom, or if it's not even on there, they probably haven't done their maintenance. And if it's black and sludgy, then it's probably also been a while since they've changed the oil, and it might mean that the engine has gotten a lot more worn out than it should have. I also like to check the air filter if the seller lets me, and if it's easy, that's why I like to bring some simple tools. So just pulling off this bolt, I think there's one more. Checking the air filter. I don't think I did on this bike just because I knew it was going to be a mess, but this one, when I eventually did pull it out when I got it, it was falling apart. There was basically a mouse nest in there. So when the air filter is dirty or it's falling apart, that means the owner hasn't done regular maintenance on it. The air filter is the only thing stopping dirt and debris from getting through the carb and into the engine, which if dirt gets through the engine, it's going to wear out the piston, the rings, everything a lot faster. Which will mean you're going to need to rebuild a lot faster, which isn't very common on these beginner trail bikes if you just do simple maintenance. And then I just like to check the spokes, make sure that they're tight, make sure that they're all there. I like to check the tires or just look at them, see if they have good life left in them. I think I replaced both of these recently because they were almost bald. Those are just simple maintenance items, but there's something to consider because they cost money. So you could spend $100, $150 on tires, checking the chain and sprockets to see if they're worn out. This one is getting loose. If they're at the end of the adjustment, you're going to need a new chain and sprockets, which is anywhere from $50 to $150 as well. And then the last big thing is, how does it start? Now I prefer that the seller does not start the engine before I get there, because I like to know how it starts when the engine is cold. This can give you a good idea of how healthy the engine is. Just touch the engine, make sure it's air temperature, but if it's hot, it's going to be hot to touch. For example, if the owner started before you got there, you don't know if it took one kick or 1 second with the electric start, or if they tried to kick it over 50 times or held it for 60 seconds to try and start it. You just don't know. So that's why I like to be the one that starts the bike, or have, if you're not comfortable starting it, have the seller start it when you get there. So how easy does it start? You turn on the gas and the choke and try and start it. And if it starts within a few seconds or within 3, maybe 5 kicks at the most, the engine is probably good. And as long as it's not making a lot of noise, and if you properly warm up the bike and shift it through all the gears, and if it shifts properly, well, then there's a really good chance that the bike is going to be reliable. Now, obviously, there's no way to 100% guarantee that you're going to get a perfect used dirt bike because you don't know what the history is of the bike. But by following these simple steps and just going to look at a few used dirt bikes can give you a better idea of what's good and what's not, and then base your cash offer on the bike to get a better deal or to pass and go to another bike. Oh, and I also forgot, if for some reason you're looking at a liquid cooled bike, which I didn't recommend, but if it has radiators, then you should pop the radiator cap off when the engine is cold to check the coolant level. Because if the coolant level, you can't see it, it's below the fins, either the bike got hot too long, too often, or maybe there's a blown head gasket. But it's just one red flag if the coolant level is too low. And if you tip the bike all the way over and there's still no coolant showing, which is what happened when I looked at a CRF 150R one time. It's like, I think this bike is going to blow up real soon. So I'm just going to do a hard pass unless you can get an extremely good deal, expecting that you're probably going to need to rebuild the bike. So if you go and look at a used dirt bike, I want to know how it goes. Post it in the comments, whether it's a day later or a month or a year later. I want to know. And if you want to know how to buy a used set of riding gear for under 500 bucks, because you can spend a lot of money on gear, subscribe and stay tuned tomorrow for my next video, or just click right here if it's already out. And then share this with a friend so that they can get started safely and on a budget. I'm Kelly Fager from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more.